What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the UFC Run Pier Sports Show. Bright and early Saturday morning, UFC 272. It's a good one. A lot of good fights on this card. We're doing this show every week now. If you're watching live, thank you for joining us. If you're watching, on YouTube later, hope you enjoy the show. And it's going to be a fun night. I'm Draftcheat. You guys know that by now. I'm joined by my regular guys, Titletown, Keg. Title, what's going on, man?
Nothing much. 13 fights, 2 5-rounders. DFS wise, we'll get to it, but the RDA fight against Moicano, 7,300 and 7,200 for a 5-round fight. So it's going to be very interesting for DFS. And a lot of good fights on the prelims too. Good fights top to bottom. So excited to talk about it, dive in and pick some winners.
Yeah, we'll do the same format as always, talking about all 13 fights, starting with the early fights on the card, obviously, talking DFS with Title and betting with our guy, Sports Keg. How you doing this Saturday morning?
Good, man. I'm looking forward to the card because this one's a banger. So it should be a fun night.
It is. Yeah, I had a pretty good week last week, or I think that was last week, right? Except for Alvarez let us down. So hopefully if you guys watch that show. We did hit the plus 500 on Nunez decision. We talked a little bit about that. That was a fun one. That was just seemed way off. And sometimes, sometimes the lines will strike you even during the show. So hopefully we'll find some winners for you guys today. And with that, 13 fights, let's get into them. First fight on the card, Dustin Jacoby and Kar Olajacek. Jacoby coming in minus 180 to minus 200, depending on where you look. From a DFS perspective, he is the more expensive fighter, 8,600, and Olajacek sitting there at 7,600. Title, we'll start with you for this first fight. What do you see between these two?
Yeah, so Jacoby's the bigger guy, 3-inch height advantage, 3-inch reach advantage. This fight's going to stay on the feet, which is good for both these guys because both these guys are good strikers. They mainly struggle if someone's just trying to take them down consistently. Cutelaba against Jacoby tried to take him down like 8 times in the first round. And then he can look good in the second and third round. I've been on Jacoby for a while. I think he's a good fighter. I like his length. He throws a lot of kicks, which I always love. And Olajacek, that's the big difference. He throws no kicks at all. He is all hands, all boxing. He has a lot of power for sure, but he's just so one-dimensional. He doesn't check leg kicks well. I think it's going to be at distance. Jacoby being the longer guy and mixing it up a lot more. I just think Olajacek's either KO or bust in this spot. Excuse me. KO or bust in this spot. I don't see him winning a decision. And I just don't think he KOs Dustin Jacoby. Jacoby's been knocked out once in his 21 pro fights, seems to have a pretty good chin. The cardio's there. The volume's there. He lands 5.2 significant strikes per minute. There's just so much to like about Dustin Jacoby. We cashed Olajacek as a dog last card against a fraud, or it was an undefeated wrestler that just gassed out. But there's levels to this. Kind of a close fight. I think you can use like a Jacoby in a parlay since he's now minus 190, minus 180 on DraftKings. So I think you can parlay him with somebody else. I'm confident he does get the win. Olajacek, he's live for a KO, but I think Jacoby's winning all the minutes. And if he loses, because he gets caught. So the big thing in this fight, though, is whoever is walking forward definitely has the advantage. Both guys want to take the center of the octagon. So that'll be interesting to see from the start. But I got Jacoby. Could be decision, wouldn't be surprised, but I think the volume and the leg kicks could add up, and he eventually puts it on him and finishes them too. So 8,600, I have some interest. And like I mentioned earlier, with the RDA Moicano fight, 5 rounds, 7,300, 7,200, you're going to be able to play a lot more favorites than you usually can and feel good about it. So I'm on Jacoby on this one.
Do you feel pretty confident this fight stays on the feet?
Yeah, I would be surprised to see it get to the mat.
Yeah, I could see it being tough for Jacoby to get there at 8,600 if so, right? Like light heavyweights usually not going to see a ton of volume.
It's minus 165 though, down inside the distance.
Yeah.
He lands 5 point. Like I see what you're saying. In a decision, I mean, you want finishes on this card. You want 6 finishes more than likely.
I think you're going to need them. So yeah, that'll be kind of an ongoing thing, I think, while we talk about these fights from a DFS perspective and the strategy that goes into building lineups. Keg, from a betting perspective, do you see anything here? Title seems confident in Jacoby. You share that confidence, or are you looking maybe to go to the dog here?
Yeah, I think I do. I think that there's a lot of fights on this card where we will discuss that they probably can go either way. When I look at the fight, I see 2 guys that are pretty much solely committed to striking.
Yeah.
And we don't really see them do all that much more. Yeah, I mean, Jacoby, what I will say about him is he was back in the UFC in like 2011 for a cup of coffee. Things didn't really work out for him. But since he's returned, I mean, he's 5-0-1 since coming back to the UFC. He hasn't lost an MMA fight since his time in Bellator back in 2015. And that's what you want to see in a fighter's evolution. So I think his Muay Thai is strong. I think I agree, Oleg Zaychuk, it's probably KO or bust. Yesterday when I was doing the show notes, he was minus 200. You could have got him at minus 160 earlier in the week, Jacoby. So we have seen 20 cents of buyback from yesterday. That might continue. If that continues and it gets back down to that minus 160 price, I wouldn't mind maybe a solo bet on Jacoby. But if it stays like this, it's probably parlay piece or pass, like Title said, and it's probably going to be pass for me.
Yeah, just looking at the weigh-in photos for this one right now, and is Oleg Jacek always this kind of not looking super shape?
He's not the most shredded guy.
No,
but that's not how he fights. Like, yeah.
I mean, there's a clear size and strength difference just looking at the two athletes. There's just no question. I know that doesn't always translate, but just physically a clear difference. You can just see it. So that's an interesting angle if you want to play that at all. We'll keep it moving to the next fight on the card. Devontae Smith, a slight favorite over Rudovic Klein, minus 150 to minus 160 or so. DraftKings wise, Smith 8,500, Klein 7,700. So a similar split to the last fight. Both these fighters coming off losses. This fight at 155. I kind of see Keg to maybe somewhat similar fighters here, just kind of on a surface level, and the line fairly close. You don't see that many lines kind of in this minus 150 area very often. Usually it's like a total coin flip if you get all the way here. So interested to hear your thoughts, just breaking down this fight in general, and then thoughts from a betting perspective, of course, as well.
Yeah, Ludwig Klein finally makes the move now to 155 pounds here. And I'm not sure what to make of the move. He was one of my favorite prospects that I absolutely loved coming over from ACB. And we were on him in his debut against Shane Young. But since then, he has dropped 2 fights. One, I understand, to a game Mike Trezano. I don't think Mike Trezano gets the credit that he really deserves. But the Nate Landwehr fight made me scratch my head a little bit. So, he's a striker at heart. Klein. He's really good at range and inside the pocket. But depending on where he decides to be in exchanges is everything to me in this fight. Normally, you would want Klein at range to set up those power shots. And he's got a devastatingly accurate head kick that has knocked out multiple people, knocked out Shane Young in his debut in the UFC. But in this fight, I think that he needs to stay inside the pocket because, in my opinion, Devontae Smith is better at range. And he's got a lot of power, and he tries to take your head off. And he sits behind a very good jab all day long while he just picks you apart outside. So it does worry me that Smith sometimes gets lulled into those low volume scraps, and his durability deserves to be questioned considering that we have seen him on rubber legs a couple times in the UFC. So his chin could potentially be an issue. So when the odds open, Klein was an even money dog, and that's where I think that this fight should be. So, I do lean that Smith wins the fight. But from a betting perspective, I think that Klein is live enough that if I can get him in that plus 150 range by fight time, I might shoot my shot on something like that because it would be a mispricing. So I lean Smith wins, but odds-wise, dog or pass.
That's exactly what I was going to say, that last point where, you kind of think this should be, we think it should, or you and I think it should be a closer line maybe than it is. And you can just wait, right? Wait to see if this plus 130 that's sitting there now, if you can get it at some point in the day, right? Like a plus 140, plus 150, because you might be able to it might just spike there. You grab the number and you got a nice number on on a fight that we think should be pretty close. Title, are you with us on this Smith-Klein fight, or do you have a strong lean either way?
I mean, it's definitely a tough fight. Some red flags right away, or some things I don't love to see. Ludovic Klein taking this fight on short notice, up a weight class. Keg, is it? Did he say he's like 155 is where he's staying at, or he just because he took this fight is why it's at 155? Because I didn't know that.
To be honest, I think it's because he took it on short notice.
That's what I thought.
I never heard of him even contemplating going to 155.
So I think he's fighting up a weight class. I expect him to drop to 145 too after this. So up a weight class, short notice against a really heavy hitter in Devontae Smith. So some red flags right away. But yeah, Ludovic Klein, I mean, man, like as Kelly said, I was so high on this guy too. This guy's cost me plenty of cheese in the UFC. He's been massive favorites in all three fights.
Now you get him as a dog though.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Now you like, if I'm betting him as a minus 350, like favorites, and I'm not betting him, but if I'm playing him a lot in DFS, like I have to have interest. This fight's tied for the highest inside the distance on the card at minus 225 over or under 1.5, like plus 130 only. These boys are going to come out swinging. The thing I hate or thing I don't like about Klein is what I've seen. He just goes minutes sometimes with just no activity. He just doesn't throw anything. It's not like he's just getting reads like Adesanya sometimes, stuff like that. He just literally does not throw anything, which can be really tilting. But that head kick is nasty for sure. And Devontae Smith, he's really good. He's got power, 10 KOs and 11 wins. Thing is, though, his chin in all three of his losses, they've all come by KO. His chin is dust. If Klein hits him, especially with that head kick, the fight's over. Kama Worthy knocked him out as a minus 1,000 favorite. Go ahead, Keg.
We might see like a show-stopping NFT knockout if he lands that head kick tonight.
Oh, it would be performance of the night right away. It'd be like there's very good potential if Klein wins. It's that head kick. You're gonna see it for a while.
A couple things. How short is the notice between these two?
I believe I'd have to double check. It's not as short notice as some of these guys.
Like 2-3 weeks,
I want to say like 2 weeks, but
2 weeks was going to be my and up a weight class. So perhaps there's something in it where Klein might come out especially aggressive, right? If he's not like completely there to train for a fight, go for that spectacular early knockout, which sounds like a possibility. I don't know what the like first round KO I could see, right? Sounds like just for the way you guys are talking about these two. Lands a big head kick in the first round wouldn't shock me. So
February 25th, yeah. So it's about 2 weeks. It looks like on the short notice. But yeah, I mean, we got two strikers. Someone's gonna get knocked out. It looks like Devontae Smith has all the power in the world. Put some combinations on Klein. He's knocked out. Smith has no chin. Klein can catch him easily. So DFS, you have to have interest. As betting, yeah, maybe it is dog or pass. My pick is Devontae Smith just because I don't know. Klein's tilted me so hard. Just watching him, like he's just making me so mad. But he was minus 350. Now he's plus 130. So you just can't jump off completely. Good fight in DFS though. Tied for the highest inside the distance odds. Can easily end in the first round.
Yeah, most of these fights are favored to end inside the distance.
It's gonna be a fun card.
Has a potential to be a really, really, really fun card. I mean, just these first two fights are, I think, both going to be fun fights and could go either way. Top to bottom,
except one fight and a couple ones that's kind of low level. Like every single fight's a fight you get up for and want to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for it as well. So yeah, that's Smith and Klein. We'll move on to the next fight. Tim Elliott against Tahir Ulanbekov. Ulanbekov is minus 250 or so. This one, I believe, 135, 145.
125
all the way down at flyweight for Elliott and Ulanbekov. So yeah, Elliott, a veteran. I kind of think, Keg, we know what to expect from him generally as a fighter. He kind of seems like a solid dude in the UFC, but probably not someone that's going to take a big step forward. At least that's the way I see it. Ulanbekov, we know much less about him, right? 2 straight wins in the UFC, a big wrestler. You kind of know that prototype too. And to me, this type of fight usually goes the direction that you kind of think it would, right? Wrestling is still the best skill in the UFC if you have it. Wrestling and control, that's the best way to a win. Ulanbekov looks like he has it to me.
Wrestling is your thing when you come from that region of the country and your name ends in OV or EV, right?
Yeah.
But what I will say is I think of all the prospects that are from that region of the world,
he's the worst.
Last name, I think that he really is one of my least favorite
I agree.
of the whole crop, right? So I do,
but that's also like we're comparing him to like the cream of the crop. So
yeah,
but
you're
I do
comparing to like the best in the UFC.
Yeah,
You're right.
yes.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think he's a really good grappler once he finds an entry point. Obviously, gets you to the ground. He's relentless, top control, yada yada. Same thing for all these guys, right? But like a lot of the grapplers in that area, he leaves a lot to be desired in his striking. I think that his jab is solid. Maybe his counter-striking game is okay. But where his bread is buttered is almost 5 takedowns per 15 minutes that he successfully converts. As far as Tim Elliott, I love him like I love Cerrone and Jim Miller and Diego Sanchez. They're all gladiators, man. They'll either go out on their shield or you're going to go out on their shield, right? Unfortunately for Tim, he's getting really old, and he's slowing down. And with his style, those are two luxuries that he really can't afford. In most fights, he either wins by submission or decision, or he loses by submission or decision. So at the end of the day, he's only won 3 of his last 8 fights. I don't think that Elliott has a big enough advantage in the striking department to grab the win. So yeah, I do think it's Umer and Backoff. That being said, if you really wanted to bet the fight, I would lean Umer and Backoff by decision at plus 130, but I'll probably pass.
That's mine. Umer and Backoff decision plus 130. You look at Elliott, he doesn't have a knockout in his last 10 fights. These are flyweights, 125. These these guys from this region of the world that wrestle, they never get knocked out, any of them, right? Like it just never ever happens. And Elliott's not going to freaking catch him when he's coming in. So Umer and Backoff's just going to walk through some strikes, grab a hold of him, take him to the ground. I think this fight is going to go one of those that's just going to go exactly like you logically would expect it to go. Also, I think you can look at the matchmaking here. 125 doesn't have that many fighters. Elliott is like the best guy that they can kind of feed this guy, right? On the same card with Habib's cousin. It just all makes sense to me that Umer and Backoff would cruise here. So title, it sounds like you're not maybe as high on Umer and Backoff as some of his countrymen or whatever, but still 9,000. And if he wins, we think we know what it's going to look like, right? Either a early submission or ground and pound or takedowns and a ton of control time, both of which score fantastically in DFS. So even though he's not your favorite, as a favorite here and with the style that works so well in DraftKings, I have to imagine you're going to have some exposure here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm comparing him to like
Sure.
Islam, Umer, there's the complete studs of all studs. Think about Tagir's, man, this guy's striking like DC, you might be able to knock this guy out if you land clean. Like this guy's striking is brutal. Tim Elliott's
walking back a couple steps.
Yeah, I know, obviously. But given the people, painting a picture for the people, like Tim Elliott's going to have the striking advantage in this fight. And Tim Elliott's not a striker. He's known for being a grappler and a wrestler and stuff like that. Tim Elliott, like his best path, spam the leg kicks right away. Tagir's got toothpicks for legs and his striking is awful. Takedown entries, they're okay. They're nothing special. Once he gets it to the mat, though, his wrestling's good. He's not as physically dominant as an Islam and a Habib and stuff like that, as we've seen. Just the strength of those guys is out of this world. He's not like that, but his wrestling is definitely good. And I think he can't control Elliott. We've seen Elliott control for periods of time. Tagir's last fight against Alan Nascimento, he won a split decision. He got good takedowns. He got top control. But man, I was impressed with Tagir's wrestling and avoiding all the submission attempts. The guard of Nascimento, he was throwing up submission attempts left, right, like every 20 seconds he was throwing something up. And Tagir stayed safe. He was in some pretty tough positions that he ended up getting out of. So like, I don't see Tim Elliott submitting Tagir. I don't think he's going to be able to reverse him or he's going to get the better of the grappling exchanges. I do think Tagir eventually does take him down multiple times if Tim Elliott can get up. The control time's there. Tim Elliott, yeah, he's 17-12. But if you just look at it, like he's fought the best of the best. He's fought Davison Figueiredo, Brandon Royval, Askar Askarov. So the level of competition has definitely been on Elliott's side. But he loses to everyone that's kind of decent. He beats all the guys that they're not bums, but he beats the guys that he pretty much should beat. This would be Elliott's best win in the UFC.
What would be that? How does Elliott win this fight?
If he keeps it on the feet, he's going to get the better of the striking advantages. And
you think there's a chance he can do that? I mean,
I maybe
okay.
I'm not sold on Tagir. I'm really not, but he's going to be my pick in this fight. And there's more. Yeah, go ahead.
I agree with you. My one last point, I would say, Tim Elliott's like career highlight is losing a 5-round decision to Mighty Mouse 8 years ago. That's his career highlight, losing a 5-round decision.
Well, he'd have a new one tonight if he can pull up the upset.
It would be his best win, or the Jordan Espinosa when he was talking to him and exposing him, Keg, a couple fights ago. But no, I mean, I'm on Tagir. Tim Elliott, like the cardio with Tagir, the wrestling. I think he does find a way to get the man stuff. But I'm just saying, like, future fights down the road, I'm not sold on this guy. That's the only thing I'm saying.
It is interesting because you see the clear contrast between him and Nurmagomedov. The next fight, we'll talk about that obviously in a moment. But Backoff only sitting at -240. And then we have
the next man is different.
Yeah, we'll go there now. Umer Nurmagomedov, Habib's cousin, trains with him, fighting Brian Kelleher. It's, the argument is obviously that it wouldn't even really matter who he's fighting, right? Kelleher, a pretty good fighter in his own right. I have respect for his game, but from what we've seen from Umer, from what we've heard from Habib, from the lead coach at AKA, from Daniel Cormier, everybody says can't stop gushing about this guy, right? He's going to be champion. These are people saying this that don't say that about every fighter. 13-0. He's basically, they're saying he's the next Habib, right? That's kind of what everybody's telling us. That's what he looks like. I don't really see any reason to doubt that, other than it's tough to compare someone to maybe the greatest MMA fighter of all time. Title, we'll start with you on this one. 9,600 for Nurmagomedov. And I assume you're going to be very high on him in your lineups.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, everything you said, future champ, like the guy has it all. The thing is, like, his striking is insane. His kicks, he throws a million question mark kicks. Like, he doesn't even have to go to the wrestling. Like, his striking, Habib, he didn't have the striking like Umer does. Islam, he doesn't have the striking like Umer does. This man is as well-rounded. He's only 25 years old. He's only getting better. It's a scary, scary problem for this division for sure. Brian Kelleher, like you said, like, this guy's no bum by any means. No. I mean, his guillotine's nasty. He's knocked out good fighters. Like, if he needs to put on his wrestling shoes, he'll put on his wrestling shoes and dominate. And Umar's a -1,000 favorite against him, which just shows how good this guy is. It's MMA. Anyone can get caught, blah, blah, blah. But it's Umer all day, 9,600. Again, keep bringing it up, the 7,300 and 7,200 fight that's 5 rounds. Yeah, it would probably be tough to play an Umer and a Kobe and all these other top guys. But because we have that, and there are a lot of live dogs on this card too, it's impossible not to like Umer. I have him inside the distance. I think he just puts on a statement. I think he puts on a show. He reminds people that he's that dude. And yeah, I think he's a future champ one day. Very, very, very excited to watch him. Just because it's an art to watch. Like, the man is so special in every single area. So if he wants to get takedowns, he'll get takedowns. If he wants to knock him out, I think he can knock him out. So Umer all day.
Yeah, I think so as well. Keg, give any thoughts on this fight?
So I wrote in my notes, I think it's Umer by murder, right? But then I wrote, but there's like 3% of the back of my brain that says Kelleher has decent hands, decent pace, isn't awful in scrambles, solid wrestler. So maybe, nope, can't do it. Nurmagomedov by murder. So that's what I have in my notes. I agree with Title. See, the question is, how do you get involved here? I would say that your best option is the method of victory double chance, where you can get 2 out of 3, because I do think that this can end all 3 ways, to be fair, for him. So I think Title taken by submission or knockout 2 out of the 3, and he's not going to have the decision at even money. I don't mind that, because you can get him by inside the distance right now at +120 at DK. So you're getting 2 out of the 3 ways he can end the fight at +120. And if he wins the decision, you get left out to dry. But that's probably the way I would approach it.
That makes sense. Just quick answer, Keg. If I told you Kelleher wins this fight, how would he win it?
Knockout.
Yeah.
Guillotine.
Guillotine. Okay.
Well, he does have a really great guillotine. I'll give you that, especially on entry when somebody's coming in.
Yeah, that's the only path, but it's so hard to do that against Umer.
Okay.
I think you can catch him maybe.
Round one, you can get Kelleher plus 1,800, 18 to 1 if you wanted to get weird. I don't know.
We'll find another long shot on this card, but I hear you.
All right, we'll pass on that.
Actually,
one.
yeah, I mean, you're the one that called the Nunez decision. Listen to DC on me.
I like those big numbers. I do.
No, for sure.
Kind of see them happening. So, I would just rather. I'm just saying, I'd rather take the the plus 1,800 than the plus 700 or whatever. But we do all expect the kind of the same thing. Umer should roll in this one. Probably going to want to get as much exposure to him in DFS as you can. I don't think he's like a must-play title, though, just to put a bow on that.
There's no must-plays on this card today. Like, there's so many finishes and big scores that could happen.
Yep, he could do exactly what we expect and still not get there in the end. So
Jamal Hill a couple weeks ago, knockout first round, he's not on the winner. Like, there's so many ways fights can go.
Absolutely. We'll move from that fight to perhaps a less exciting one. Maria Agapova taking on Maria Munoz. And for a line here, we've got Agapova coming in minus 180. Unlike most of the fights on this card, this one expected to go to decision. Most of these fights are expected to finish inside the distance. So right off the bat, title that kind of, obviously makes you lukewarm on this type of fight from a DFS perspective. Hard for me to imagine paying the 8,800 for Agapova with some of the other options, even that we've just talked about so far. But maybe you have a different opinion. Give your thoughts on the fight and then DFS talk as well.
Yeah, I mean, this fight's plus 120 to end inside the distance, so it's kind of a coin flip. Agapova is only plus 180 to finish, plus 400 to end inside the distance. Like, she's one of the few girls in this division that actually has knockout power and can finish the fight at any time. And what I love about this fight, there's bad blood in this fight, just like in the main event. These girls, ex-teammates, ex-roommates, ex-training partners, and they don't like each other at all, which you always love to hear when you're getting ready for a fight. Maria Agapova, the thing is with her is, man, she was very hyped up coming in the UFC too. And the Shanna Dobson fight, over a minus 1,000 favorite, and she loses that fight. She gets taken down twice in the first round. Her cardio just absolutely falls off a cliff because she throws with a lot of power. But then and a lot of stuff, there have been news about her, like outside of the octagon on her own time, like she makes questionable decisions. She's not like fully dedicated to the UFC like that. You'd have to go look it up. I'm not going to get all into it, but there's things that
I'm going to be looking this up after. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, he's just airing out somebody's dirty laundry on the internet.
You have to, like, the thing is though, like part of the reason people back her up from that is because like she wasn't in the right frame of mind for it. Now they're saying that she's good to go and stuff like that. But yeah, look it up after for anyone out there. Agapova. So anyway, though, this fight, I mean, Agapova on the feet, she has a power advantage. Moreau's, she's a boxer. She has a boxing background. The thing is, though, I think she's going to want to get this fight to the mat. Agapova hasn't shown good takedown defense, and Rose has pretty good wrestling. I mean, when she gets the takedown, she has pretty decent top control. Agapova hasn't really shown too much off of her back. So I think it's kind of going to be striker versus grappler, but Moreau's isn't lost on the feet. So I think the underdog is definitely live. If I'm betting this fight, it probably is dog or pass for me. But Agapova definitely has a lot of upside. She has first round finishing upside with her power, and if she connects on Moreau's. Another thing I will say, I have to bring it up. Who knows what it's going to do, but Moreau's is from Ukraine. Who knows where her head is at in this fight? I don't know it just has to be mentioned with everything going on. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks on this fight. It's a woman's fight, but it is plus 120 to end inside the distance. And I think the ownership on both these girls is going to be pretty low because of that. And there's an outcome for both girls to have a big score. We saw Moreau's put up 111 points last fight in a decision. And you know why, DC, all those little pity pats, like you touch them just a little bit, they count for significant strikes. she had 130 significant strikes or something. And only half of those, if that, should have been counted. So they're going to give every strike a significant strike in this one. If Moroz gets takedowns and control time, she has a path to the optimal. If Agapova catches her, which she definitely can, she has the power to finish it. She has a path to the optimal. So I'm actually more interested in this fight, and I'm going to be overweight on it because I think it gets overlooked.
Yeah. The political stuff. I mean, you're right to bring it up if you think it can potentially affect.
I'm just going to tell in the playbook, like people don't I do all the research stuff. She's from Ukraine. I think it's something worth bringing up. You can do whatever you want with that information.
Well, yeah, obviously we got a couple fighters from Russia on the card too. Kelleher's coming out with I think a world peace flag.
He wanted to. I think he got declined with that.
Okay, gotcha. But yeah, so there's obviously, shit going on in the world and fighters from those regions. So I think it's fair to bring that up. Did a little Googling on Agapova while you were talking there, Title.
I could tell.
Yeah, well, makes me like her more for this fight. I'll say that, because it does seem like she's got it kind of straightened away, and maybe that,
that's what I mean though. Yeah, that's why the -1,000, it sucks, but there's things about it that you look into, that you hear about. Yes. And now it looks like yes, that's why I brought it up, and I'm on the same page with you on it.
Yeah, makes sense. Keg, your thoughts on this one?
I think the line that sticks out to me from what Title said is there are just a ton of question marks in this fight. And I think that's fair. Agapova looked so bad against Shayna Dobson, and she's got wicked hands, but if you can only throw those hands for 6 minutes, you're cooked. It doesn't mean anything unless you can get a finish in the first round. I kind of like Moroz. I'm higher on her than most people. I mean, look, she was good enough to at least go the full 15 with Angie and Carla Esparza. The Angie fight was close. She's got an armbar win over JoJo Calderwood. She's got quality wins. She's faced 10 times better level of competition in her career than Agapova has. And while I like a lot of things about Agapova, it's not all together yet. Could she win this fight? Yes, I think she can win this fight. But if you're saying that you're going to give me +150 on a fighter that I think is probably as good and has proven more up until this point, I think it's worth a small sprinkle at +150 on Moroz. If Agapova stomps her like a grape, then maybe we see the Agapova that we thought we were going to see this whole time. But right now, she still has to prove some things to me. So I say I like the dog here for a sprinkle.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm going official call Agapova inside the distance. You can get that around +200. I think she, as you said, Keg, stomps her like a grape. That's my official call, mostly from reading an article online while you guys are talking. So
now you have to have interest in her for DFS though.
Oh yeah, no, I'm in.
There you go.
Yeah, that's take what I say with a grain of salt, because that's why I came to it in the last 2 minutes. So it's not don't go too crazy with it.
So I'm glad I brought up the thing about Ag. Hey, it changed someone's mind.
Yeah, I'll be texting you when I have like 60% Agapova and she absolutely sucks. I'll be like, why'd you have to bring that up, Title? I was going to play one. We'll move on from that one. And Title, I'm going to give you special guest hosting duties to introduce the next fight on the card, because I don't know how to pronounce these guys' names, and I bet you do. So you got this one. Let's see it.
Kennedy Nchukwu against Nick Nagar. Nick M. I
see that I made a good decision.
No, I always get it wrong. I just call him Nick because I always get the last name wrong. Cat, go for it.
It's
Negaramanu. It's not because it's not an R though. Negamarano. I feel like I hear them say it different. I don't know. Nick. I always say
seems
Nick.
Like a dangerous last name to even say out loud to me. So yeah.
I always say Nick. That's all I ever say because I never can get it. The Kennedy Nchukwu, that one's right.
Listen, I got enough bad shit like Agapova, out there on the internet about me. I don't need me mispronouncing this guy's last name and another clip surfacing. So we'll call him Nick for the purposes of this fight. Nikolai versus Kennedy. Kennedy is a -140 here. We'll move away from the name game and talk about the fight. Title, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I don't need to pronounce his name right until he actually shows me something that's deserving. I mean, yeah, he's on a 2-fight winning streak. He won a split decision against Alexa Kamer. I don't know. The fight was it was what it was, nothing special. Then he goes out and he knocks out Ike Villanueva. We were all over him on that fight. Talk about another fight that scoring wise, he knocks him out in the first round. It was a minute 18 in, so he misses the bonus. And he scores 97 points. Like stuff like that, where you just never know how it goes. But like Villanueva, he's no longer with the UFC. Like he's not good at all. So if you look at his record, it's 11-1. The guy fought absolute cans on the regional scene before the UFC. His first fight in the UFC was against Safarov. Man, that was the grossest fight you'll probably ever watch. And then he took about 2 years off. He's a primary wrestler. He's got some power in his hands, but when I was talking earlier, like every fight's pretty much good, except there's kind of one. This is the lowest level fight on the card for sure. As far as Kennedy, I mean, the guy could not start any slower in all of his fights. If you look at the Alberg fight, he was getting it put on, and 83 significant strikes for Alberg in the first round, just absolutely putting it on Kennedy. But he showed to be very durable. His cardio was there. Alberg gassed himself out. He punched himself out, and then Kennedy just puts him on him in the second round. Kennedy's very big for this division. He's 6'5". He's going to have the massive, 5-inch height and reach advantage in this fight. So he's going to be much, much bigger. His takedown defense is really good at 82%. So I don't think Nick's going to be able to get the takedowns and have success like that. If he does, I think Kennedy will be able to get up on his feet. So I'm expecting a primary stand-up matchup. When Kennedy lets his hands go, it's pretty decent. He'll throw a 15-punch combination, as he showed against Marquez and even Alberg. And then when he does that, it looks good. But he goes periods of time too. Like last fight against Dong Jung, he just did not throw anything. He gets hit once and he pretty much folds. So there goes the durability that I thought he had. Now I don't even know if his durability is there. So many question marks in this fight. Low level, but it's minus 190 to end inside the distance. And sometimes the low level fights do finish in the first round just because it's low level and the guys just quit or they don't know how to take a shot or something like that. So I don't know. I'm going to go back to Kennedy since I do think he's a little better striker. I think the jab, I think the reach, the height advantage, he's just a much bigger guy. He's going to be my pick. But man, you can't be confident in this fight. But like I said, for DFS, minus 190 and inside the distance could easily end in the first round. You have to have some interest at 8,400, 7,800. But I'm going to go with Kennedy in this one.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Least confident pick on the card, though. Like it really is.
Well,
you like Nick,
minus 130, minus 140 favorite. Significant size difference between the two, like you mentioned. Kennedy, huge dude, right? 6'5", 83-inch reach, which is up there with as longer reach as anybody in the UFC. Fight. Keg, is this fight? If Kennedy can keep this fight on the feet, you feel confident he'll win there. I mean, that's my read on it.
I mean, yeah, the big thing with this kid is that he's learning on the job, basically, because he doesn't have a lot of fights. I basically agree with everything that Title said in terms of the breakdown. Here's what I'll say. Our guy, Gavin, who does do some content at Rump here, does the college basketball videos with Boynton. He's actually a really solid MMA handicapper. And he sends me one play every week. And this week I got 4 words. I'm on Nick Neg plus 120. I said, I'm in. Let's go. I'm riding. So I'm gonna go with Nick Neg. But I mean, in terms of I think Title's right. I would probably give the slightest of leans if this stays on the feet to Kennedy.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna ride with my guy and bet Nick Neg.
Interesting. No, we have no reason why, but we have a
There's a reason. Hey, if you trust someone, that's your reason why.
I know.
If all the tape, save yourself time. You trust someone, you take that free bet.
I totally understand. I do it all the time with you guys. I jump on the train when I don't know, but
that Onamo fight,
I don't know. Okay.
that Onamo fight, I bet you're like, oh, Title, what are you talking about for the first 3 minutes of that fight against Benitez? Hey, that fight was crazy. Do you remember that one?
I really do think that Title hit pretty much all the, in terms of the breakdown of the fight. I think that, I do think if it stays on the feet, I would give a slight edge because, Kennedy Nzechukwu, up until that last fight, he's been pretty durable.
He's been really durable.
Now he did. It does worry me a little bit that a partially blocked kick to the head knocked you out. That's a bad sign that your chin is going in the wrong direction. But yeah, I would still edge out Nzechukwu on the feet over Negumereanu. But in terms of betting, I don't see an edge either way to really get involved. I just know if my guy's going to say plus 1 point on Nick Neg, I'm right.
Yeah, makes sense. Ted, what about DFS wise? I'm guessing you'll have exposure to both these guys some.
Yeah, I'm going to. And like, it's easy. Like the mid tier is so good. And obviously like the upper tier is too, but like you can easily leave salary. And could Kennedy knock him out in the first round and outscore Umer? Like he really could. A lot of people in the mid tier could outscore like the upper tier. So leaving salary is always viable in MMA, this card, especially because it's 7,300, 7,200 fighter. But yeah, just making a drop from an Umer or Kevin Holland or something to a fight like this that can minus 190 to end. Yeah, I like the mid tier a lot. This is no difference. I'll have exposure.
All right. We'll move on to the next fight, another women's fight. Marina Rodriguez, pretty big favorite, minus 275 over Yan Xiaonan. Probably mispronouncing that, but we're coming off that last fight, so not as bad as that one. Rodriguez, though, I got that one right. Again, expected to win this fight. She's 15-1, coming off 2 consecutive 5-round decision wins. So she's been, I guess, pretty impressive from at least a wins and losses standpoint. Not a spectacular fighter in my opinion, but a good striker, can kind of do it all. So Keg, we'll start with you on this one. Rodriguez is pretty big favorite here. To me, this line seems kind of justified, but 275, kind of a big number. Interested to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I have been laughed out of many chat rooms this week saying that I think that this is the low-key fight of the night. I love this fight. I love both these fighters. I'll say it. I don't care. I think that the winner of this fight has to get a title shot after Esparza. I think that these two women are higher level strikers than half the men on this card. And at me if you have an issue with it. Now, I think that this is the most skilled striker that Marina Rodriguez has probably faced. I don't really think it's probably close either. However, I think that the same could be said for Xiaonan facing Rodriguez. I just think in the end, Marina Rodriguez carries more power with her shots. And I would lean towards Marina here by decision because Xiaonan has proven that if this stays on the feet all 15, she will give you everything you can handle. And she does have good enough footwork in the cage, I think, to avoid like a damaging kill shot from Marina Rodriguez. But I still think Rodriguez, as high as I am on Xiaonan, I think Rodriguez finds a way by decision. So I do have a little personal bet on Marina Rodriguez by decision in that even money range. I think it's almost 105 now, but I got it at even money. I like that bet because now the one thing that worries me is Xiaonan, I think, is training at Fight Ready. I think with Cejudo. Is that true, Title?
I'm not 100. To be honest, I have not dove into this as much because as I said in the playbook.
While you're talking, I'll check that. But if that's true, it worries me that she's going to like flip the script. Because if you take a look, the only woman that's beaten both these two girls is Carla Esparza. And it was 5-round wrestling clinic, right? Basically. Now, if Xiaonan tries to flip the script somehow and do that to Marina Rodriguez, Rodriguez has a big problem getting off her back, which worries me. But I think Xiaonan is such a natural striker. She's going to do what she does every fight. So I'm going to say Rodriguez decision, even money, minus 105 range.
What? Okay, just to make sure I'm following, you're saying Xiaonan might have switched camps, or
she might be. I thought I heard that she's training with Henry Cejudo because that's what. Who did Rose Namajunas just beat for the Weili Zhang? Weili Zhang went to go train with Cejudo to get ready for Rose. And I thought that I heard the same thing about Xiaonan, which kind of worries me because if she's like, you know what, I know if I get this girl on her back, there's no way I'm losing this fight. That if she does that, that's concerning. But I'm going to go based off history, based off what we've seen her do every fight up to date. I'm going to say Rodriguez by decision.
Yeah. Why don't you look that up while Title's talking if you can, see if she's.
I will.
That would make a difference where I might want to take a stab on Xiaonan by decision win if she can control her wrestling or something like that. Title, I'm guessing you're going to be lower on this fight from a DFS perspective. I mean, that was my initial reaction. Again, a fight that's expected to go to decision. You look at these two fighters. We thought maybe we have different information from Keg, but I still think likely to stay on the feet with two strikers. If this fight goes like we expect it to go, these fighters aren't going to make it right onto the optimal for DFS purposes.
Yeah, and that's the hope. In the playbook, I said 15 minutes on the feet, full fight fade. And I think it's Rodriguez by decision too. I mean, they're striking. If you can outstrike Rodriguez for 15 minutes, man, and I like that's really, really impressive. Marina Rodriguez has some of the best hands in the division. So, but I don't think she gets the knockout. She's 9,300. I can't play her. And I'm talking, I write the playbook for 20 entry and below. If you're 150 and I 152, maybe I'll have some Marina Rodriguez. We'll see. Maybe I'll still full fade it. The volume is going to be there. Like the winner's not going to score bad by any means, but on a 13 fight card with so many fights expected to end inside the distance, I just cannot play her over a lot of these other people that we're going to talk about. So yeah, I mean, that's why I didn't dive in too much in this fight because I think it's going to be on the feet. Two good strikers. I think it goes to decision. And it's really tough to play a fight, 9,300 fighter that you think goes to decision. And it's going to be on the feet the whole time. So I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm still looking.
All right. Well, we'll revisit if we need.
I Googled it quick and I couldn't see any, like 2019, 2020, like there was talks about it. I didn't see anything, but maybe.
Yeah, if we don't check back later, if anyone wants to look it up, we're just trying to figure out if Xiaonan is training with Cejudo.
Jan is an alpha male, Scott Brown said in YouTube chat.
I mean, that's not much better. Alpha male is just a den of wrestlers.
Yeah. All right. Well, I mean, if you want to take that into consideration, but I think we all kind of still expect Rodriguez by decision is seems like the pick from all of us. So unless something gets flipped there, but we'll move on to the next fight on the card. Jamie Malarkey against Jalen Turner. Turner coming off 3 consecutive finishes inside the distance, I believe. Before that, he was 8-5, but a KO, 2 subs in a row for Turner. He's looked good. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts on him because at least on paper, really, really impressive wins in terms of how he finished the fight. He'll fight Jamie Malarkey, who, kind of a bit of a UFC veteran. Nothing spectacular, and in my opinion, can do a little bit of everything, likes to wrestle, kind of moderate striking. This line, to me, seems like it should be bigger. Jalen Turner minus 150, minus 160 right now. Clearly, at least to me, the superior athlete, and maybe kind of finding his game. So, Keg, talk to me about Turner and Malarkey, because my initial thought is that I want Turner in this one.
Yeah, he's coming off a huge win against Medic. And I'll tell you, this kid has looked very solid in the UFC.
He looks really talented to me watching those fights.
He does. I think, does he have 100% finish rate still?
Yeah, he does.
I mean, he's long, he's tall, he's explosive, huge kicks. His fight IQ appears to be improving with every fight, which is what you want to see out of a young fighter. He's only 26, I think. He forces you to give up your back, which is great. He's solid even from the bottom. His defense in terms of submissions is great. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage, I think, coming in. Malarkey, I mean, I like him. He pushes a pace. I think that he forces opponents to really like wilt like a dead flower because he is relentless with the pace and the pressure constantly. He's got solid power. He likes to chop at your legs. And I think for me, he's one to give up his back also. Now, he does also have his own 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes is okay, I guess. 66% takedown defense. But I think Jalen Turner he's really solid. I think he's skilled, and I don't see how he loses this fight unless maybe he gets caught, but he hasn't really been caught yet. So for people looking for a path, I think it's probably, and I actually wrote a note to ask you guys your opinion, probably a double chance method of victory here, but how? I think it could happen every way. I don't really know how. What type of? How do you think the plan is?
That's the brilliance of Jalen Turner to me. He can finish I think he can beat Kelleher almost any way he wants. Nicknamed the Tarantula, aptly so. I mean, you look at this guy; he is kind of a freak athlete, I think. So I'm in on Turner every which way here. DFS. I think he's going to finish inside the distance. Could be sub or KO. I mean, those are tough.
You know what, DC? The numbers going down to the point now where you don't even have to get.
No, I'm just going to take him to win the fight mostly at like minus 140, minus 150. Just get the best number that I can. I like that. I'm probably going to do that soon. Honestly, I think Turner's going to get steamed up. Just my prediction, unofficial, just because I think he's going to win. Title. Your thoughts here? Talk me off the Turner ledge, because I'm pretty high on this guy, obviously.
I mean, it's hard not to be high on this guy. Yeah. And he tweeted yesterday, he's like, I don't know how I make 155. I'm going to be 170 to 180 by fight night.
Listen, if you look at the weigh-in photo between these two, I know that's going to say Turner's got a 3-inch height advantage.
That's what
it looks higher. It looks bigger than that. You're like, if you
he's massive. He's massive. He's got skills everywhere the fight goes. Like it's hard not to like him. As far as Malarkey, I mean, why the line is where it's at is Malarkey's been very impressive in his last 2 fights. Even though, I mean, he lost to Ziam by unanimous decision, but man, he could have won that fight. Like, I didn't think that fight was a unanimous decision loss. So Malarkey, Kama Worthy's not very good. He knocked him out in the first round, whatever. Devontae Smith, though, that's a big win for Malarkey. And I mean, he showed durability. His cardio is on point. He mixes it up well to the body. He has some takedowns in his back pocket. Like, Malarkey is no bum by any means. Durable. He rips all 3 levels. Like, so it's a good fight. I understand where the line is, but I'm with you on Turner. I mean, the man is just a physical freak with skills everywhere. And I just think he's going to overwhelm Malarkey, put a pace on him, and eventually he's going to break him and finish him. So yeah. I'm with you on Turner. He's going to be massive. Like we talked about it, the Kennedy fight, this fight, there was the first fight on the card, Jacoby fight. Like the big size differences is really tough for the guys that are a lot shorter when the fight's at range and on the feet. And I think this is no different. I think Turner's a beast. So I'm on him too.
I think from a DFS perspective, you might be able to get Turner a little bit lower owned. He's sitting there at that 8,200 price tag. He's not a huge favorite. I don't know, 30% owned on Turner, something like that, probably.
Yeah, something like that. And as Scott Brown said in chat too, Malarkey's going to fight for your money. And I think I wrote that in the playbook too. Like, that's the one thing you got to love about guys like that. Like he's going to fight for your money. So I think that's kind of why the line, if Turner wins by finish, like he's going to deserve every second of that. It's going to be a really good fight, but Turner's a beast. I'm on Turner too.
I'm looking forward to this one. I wouldn't be shocked if Malarkey pulls out. I think the line is where it is because Turner just has so many losses on his record, right? He's only 11-5. Malarkey's a guy that will, if you give him a chance, he'll grind out that win, right? He'll go get it. So
if you look at it though, like his losses in the UFC, 2017, it was out of the UFC, but he lost in the UFC, his UFC debut, Vicente Luque. I'm not going to count that. Losing to Vicente Luque means nothing. Then Matt Frevola, unanimous decision.
I think he's getting better, right? Like,
he is.
Yeah.
Both these guys, I mean, look at it. Both these guys, 6 years old for Jalen Turner, 27 years old for Malarkey. Like, this is a really fun fight. And whoever wins, they're going to get a big step up in competition, too. So I'm excited for this one.
What, Keg, you know off the top of your head what camp Turner's at?
Off the top of my head, hold on, let me.
That's a no. Yeah, we can look.
According to SureDog, it says Adrenaline Combat Sports. That's a website. I don't know how updated that is though. So
yeah, okay, yeah. Anyway,
someone in chat. If you're curious, someone in chat will definitely know. So
yeah.
Scott had it last time.
Not gonna change my mind on Turner, but if he had moved to a better camp and that's like kind of led to some of the wins, I would have, you could potentially be even higher on him, but still sticking with them regardless. Looking forward to that one for sure. Looking forward to this one too. Heavyweight fight, first fight on the main card. Sergey Spivak and Greg Hardy. Keg, we'll start with you on this one. I always bet against Greg Hardy, and I will continue to do so unless you can convince me otherwise, because this guy stinks. Greg Hardy is just bad at fighting. He should go back to the NFL if he can still play on a team. And I'll be rooting for Spivak to knock him out. There's my analysis. I'm not moving. Maybe. Go ahead, Keg.
Yeah, for some reason, these two heavyweights are on the main card of the pay-per-view over Rodriguez and Xiaonan, which is criminal. Yeah, I think that it's I guess a tough one to call. Greg Hardy's probably a better striker, maybe.
But no. Greg Hardy's striking is horrible.
He's a better striker. I'm with Keg on this one. He's a better striker.
The one thing that we know for sure is that Spivak will probably work for a couple takedowns. His top control game is sound. And if he gets Hardy there, Hardy's probably staying there. So my lean here, if you feel like you have to bet the fight, is Spivak to win by decision or submission at -105. But this will probably be a pass for me personally. But if I was going to give out an angle, that would be the one in this fight. Spivak decision or submission at -105.
I'm a little concerned that you guys are convinced Hardy's the better striker, because Hardy's a big dude. I would imagine he's kind of tough to take down, right?
When he's, yeah. If you're going to get to me, first of all, before that, Turner fights out of Carlson Gracie in California. Thank you, Michael and K. Philippe Berner.
Well, those 2 submissions in his last 2 makes sense, right? All right, Title, go talk me on to Greg Hardy here.
I mean, the thing, like, he was seconds away from knocking out Tai Tuivasa, and we just saw what Tai Tuivasa did to Derek Lewis. He hurt him bad. He connected big. Yes, Hardy. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I bet against Hardy, I think every single fight in the UFC. Like, he has asthma. After the first round, you can really tell. Like, he's starting to get.
Title, you're throwing people under the bus today. First, we've got Google Agapova, and now you're getting into their medical history.
Well, the Agapova changed your whole stance on that whole fight. Now you're gonna play him. As far as Greg Hardy, I mean, the dude literally hit his asthma, the puff in the thing once, and you can't do that. And now he's not allowed to do that. But I mean, look at the Marcin Tybura fight. This fight's so similar to Marcin Tybura fight, I think. In the first round, Greg Hardy putting it on him. On the feet, it was Greg Hardy all day. He had him hurt multiple times. After the first round, though, he slows down a lot. Tybura gets a takedown. He finishes the fight. Greg Hardy off of his back has nothing. In the first round, though, when he's fresh, his takedown defense is pretty good. I mean, he said he weighed like 330 pounds a week before fight night or whatever, and he made 266 barely. He's going to be, what, 285, 290 when he walks out for this fight? His takedown defense in the first round when he's fresh, it's hard to take a guy like him down. As far as Spivak, I mean, Tom Aspinall, complete stud. So look at it, though. On the feet, Sergey had nothing for him. I don't even know if he landed a significant strike in that fight. Tom Aspinall lands an elbow. It was all she wrote for Spivak. Greg Hardy in the first round is very, very live for a KO. And that's my pick, to be honest. I'm saying Greg Hardy by first round KO. However, if Spivak gets one takedown, it's over. I think it's Spivak ground and pound, submission, you name it. I think he ends this fight there. So clash of styles, you love to see it for DFS. -225 to end inside the distance, tied with Devontae Smith and Malarkey as the highest inside the distance props on the slate. Greg Hardy's so live for a first round KO. He has the power. He actually has decent leg kicks when he throws them too. And I'm not very impressed with Spivak's striking. It's not the worst, but it's not great. I do give the advantage to Hardy. However, it might just take one takedown if Spivak can get it, and then he's going to look like a -600 favorite. So I'm going to take a shot on Greg Hardy. I think first round KO is very live. The Tuivasa fight, like I said, he was very, very close to knocking out Tai Tuivasa. But yeah, it's just a clash of styles. I would not bet like -225 Spivak or wherever it's sitting right now. I would take inside the distance, but it's going to be actually, no, he's -190 right now. Hardy has got some buy last night, this morning. He's down to +160, -190, and the line keeps going down. So I do agree with that.
Yeah, if you want to tail title with the Hardy first round KO, you can get that plus 470 at the moment on FanDuel, and then some smaller books have it plus 600. So I like that number for sure. It makes sense. Stuff to takedowns, land a big punch. He's obviously got. If you're that size, you almost have to have power in your hands, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And he's an athlete. Like he says, he's the greatest athlete or whatever. But like the man's an athlete, and he's so new to MMA. You got to expect better and better and better. And he has gotten, it looks like, better and better. He fight in and fight out. So, but that's why first round KO. Because if it gets out of the first round, I'm scared. I'm like, he doesn't have cardio.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, we kind of know, we don't know the outcome of this fight, but we kind of know what both fighters want to do, right? We feel pretty confident in that. So you can kind of bet the fight accordingly, whatever, way you think it's going to go. Feedback with the takedown, submission, or ground and pound, or Hardy keeps it standing and finishes on the feet. Keg, final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, my final thought would be, title, if the bell rings to start round 2, are you cooked? Greg Hardy?
Yeah, I'm if I'm can live bet and like cash out and stuff, I am cashing out my Greg Hardy tickets. Yeah.
I think submission or decision for Spivak minus 105 isn't terrible.
Man, I just like the decision. If Greg Hardy can go 15 minutes, I would be. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It will. The decision would surprise me. I will say though, I would be surprised to see a decision personally.
You'll have exposure to both of them in DFS, sounds like.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Because, I mean, if Spivak, we talked like the Alvarez circuit, like if Spivak wins, he's going to look like a minus 700 favorite. Yeah. The takedown, it'll be over.
Makes sense. We'll go from those two heavyweights to two smaller fighters, but should be a good one between Kevin Holland and Alex Oliveira. Holland, big favorite, one of the biggest, I think the second biggest favorite on this card, sitting around minus 400 at the moment. Two primary strikers. I do expect this to stay on the feet. Certainly, it would seem Kevin Holland wants it there. Keg, we'll start with you on this one again. What do you see here between Holland and Oliveira?
Yeah, this is one of the fights that I feel strongest about on the card. Cowboy Oliveira is so washed. He has 2 wins in his last 8 fights. I think he was blown up with a grenade, literally. I think his car was blown up with a grenade with him in it, if I'm not mistaken. I mean,
DC is learning so much new stuff on this show.
He's on a 5-month turnaround to take on Kevin Holland. I mean, Kevin Holland could win this fight absolutely any way he wants. And I mean submission also. And I know that we know that Cowboy Oliveira, very good submissionist. But I really do think that even if Kevin Holland wanted to submit him, he could. So he's going to want to put on a show and finish this fight because that's Kevin Holland, especially when he's facing somebody that he knows he shouldn't struggle against. So I think Holland inside the distance at minus 118, which at least those were the odds last night. Let me check right now when I was preparing.
Minus 120, minus 120 on DK right now.
I think that's the play in this fight. Holland inside the distance, but he might not be a parlay piece right now. A couple days ago, I gave a 2-fighter parlay on our spreadsheet with him in it, but man, he is ballooning in price. So he might not be worth it at this point. Your only option might be him inside the distance minus 120 right now. But even if that is your only option, I don't mind it. I like it. I think he's going to find a way here.
Makes sense. Yeah, certainly seems like the more talented in his prime fighter of the two, like you mentioned, Keg. You see any differences from what Keg said, Title?
No, I mean, this line opened at minus 202. Now it's minus 400. He's dropping down to 170 from 185 is Kevin Holland. And that's where the weight class he should be. Like, look at his frame. Like, he weighed in at middleweight sometimes, a couple pounds under. Now he's 170. And the thing is, his losses, if you look at the last 3, Derek Brunson, one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. Marvin Vettori, one of the best wrestlers in the UFC. Kyle Dawkins, it counts as a no contest because of the clash of heads, but he was probably going to lose that fighter on his way to. The thing is with Kevin Holland, though, he's only 29 years old, and he now realized, oh, my wrestling, it needs a lot of work. My striking, fine. I'm a black belt and BJJ. He finished Jacare Souza on the mat. Like, you just don't do that. He's skilled everywhere. Now he finally has been working on his wrestling, and I think it's really going to show. And now I like Cowboy Oliveira. Yeah, he is way past his prime. 22-11. He has 6 losses by submission. So I think Kevin Holland by submission, absolutely. I think Kevin Holland by knockout, absolutely. I think Kevin Holland finishes his fight inside the distance. I agree with everything Keg said. And people are going to forget because of his last 3, but Derek Brunson, Marvin Vettori, and the way he lost on his back against really good wrestlers, like it makes sense. So
that's what I was going to bring up. I mean, Holland was, after the Sousa win, he had won 5 straight.
He was fighter of the year.
Huge win. And then he takes just the toughest matchups, right? Vettori and Brunson, he couldn't handle their physicality and their skill as a wrestler, right? His defensive wrestling just wasn't good enough. He gets repeatedly taken down. He loses those fights. And then, the Daukaus no decision.
And even in the Daukaus fight, like his wrestling takedown defense showed improvements. Like you could tell it was so much better than where it was.
But the UFC obviously still wants Kevin Holland to be a star, right? He's a super exciting fighter, a fun fighter to watch. And they're giving him, Keg, the washed guy, right? On the main card to say, hey, Kevin Holland, we still want you to be a star for us in the UFC. That's how I read the situation. You guys are on the same page. I think Kevin Holland puts on a show here, right? It seems almost too easy, Keg. I see you nodding.
I totally agree with you. And especially like titles, right? I mean, to be at 185 pounds and have to go up against Brunson, who like literally saved his career on this recent run the last couple of years. Vettori, who was a monster.
He's a monster.
I think Holland is finally going to be in his flow state.
Yeah.
And he's going to put on a show for sure. Yeah.
And
I'm jumping on board.
He'll tell you he's putting on a show too. He'll tell the
Holland inside the distance. I'm jumping on board. I don't know if it's going to be KO or sub. Could be either way. I think he can do. He might be able to tell you right now which one it's going to be. Because, I think it could be that level of mismatch. So I'm jumping on board on the Holland train. Sounds like we're 3 for 3 there. Next fight, another fun one. Edson Barboza and Bryce Mitchell. If you look at the weigh-in photo between these two, it's pretty funny. Barboza is like the most like cut guy in the UFC, or one of them, right? Super long. And then Mitchell he's got like, half, kind of looks like me, just like a regular dude, like hasn't shaved in a couple days. He's just standing there like whatever. And you know what Mitchell's going to try to do? He's going to try to wrestle Barboza, who has spectacular, striking and all this. It's just an extreme contrast in styles between these two fights, and in every which way, skills, how they look, size, all that stuff. Mitchell rather coming in minus 170. I'm on the Mitchell train here. I've seen this story a few times in the UFC, and the wrestler wins these fights. It seems like it happens all the time. I think Mitchell should be a bigger number. Of course, he could get caught, but I just think he's just such a calm. He just knows exactly who he is and what he wants to do, and I think he'd be able to do it against Barboza. I like Barboza too, but I like him against a fellow striker, which Mitchell is not. So, Title, we'll start with you on this one. Mitchell Barboza. Do you see it differently than I do?
No, you broke it down really good. I mean, I was all over Bryce Mitchell against Andre Fili last fight. And I mean, Bryce Mitchell, the thing which I love about him is he knows his strengths and he will not waste time trying to pretend he's something that he isn't. He will shoot for takedowns immediately. First 30 seconds, a takedown is going to be attempted. And if Barboza can keep this fight on the feet for more than 2 minutes, he probably finds a KO. The striking difference, the leg kicks Barboza will throw against Bryce Mitchell, like he will eat him up on the feet, and it's going to be a really short night if he can keep it on the feet.
No, I'll tell you what, the first minute of this fight, Mitchell will shoot for a takedown. Barboza will try to go for some stupid guillotine that you're like worried about Mitchell for like 3 seconds. He'll pop his head out, and then
it's over. You don't want to go for it. Like you're not going to get it against Bryce.
That's what will happen though. Watch it. Just watch. That exact thing will happen.
The thing is, like, once he gets that first takedown, all of the other ones are going to be easier. And that's the thing with Bryce Mitchell. And once he gets you on the mat, man, his grappling is next level. Really, you don't put people in twisters just for the heck of it. Like, people just don't do what Bryce Mitchell does on the mat. He is special. That's why he's 14-0. That's why he has 9 submissions. I love Bryce Mitchell. I'm going to keep going with him. The thing is, 8,300, 7,900. If Mitchell wins, It's going to be takedowns. It's going to be top control. It's going to fit DraftKings scoring perfectly. And this fight's minus 150 to end inside the distance. He can submit Barboza as the fight goes on. And as far as Barboza, 7,900, he's live for a first round KO. But that's the only really place where I'd bet him, because after the first round, I think it gets harder and harder. His cardio can wear down, as we've seen. He's 36 years old, so your cardio doesn't get better, especially when you're fighting off submissions. You're grappling with a grappler that's just lives on the mat. So I'm with you. Not sure I probably wouldn't bet the line straight up. Maybe if you want to parlay a Bryce Mitchell, Jacoby, you can probably get like a plus 150 or something tasty there. But I think Mitchell is special on the mat, and I think we're going to see it.
Not to go back to the matchmaking thing like with Holland, but I think this is another one. They want Bryce Mitchell to be a star, and Barboza on the main big pay-per-view card.
Barboza's a stud.
Yeah,
Barboza's a stud.
It's remarkable how game and dangerous he still is.
No question.
Stud.
No question. Barboza could catch him. But you know, it's not that big of a number on Mitchell. I guess that's kind of my point. You get him at minus 170, so it's not like you're, can't be wrong or whatever. However you want to put it. So it sounds like you're maybe more on the fence, Keg, on this one, Barboza Mitchell.
No, I'm very much in the same lane that you guys are in. We all love Edson Barboza. We've been watching him for over a decade, but he's getting up there. He's still very dangerous. Here's the thing. He is a phenomenal striker from range, but he cannot fight anywhere near as well when he is on his back foot and he is being pressured. He will be on the back foot getting pressured a ton while this kid goes for his takedowns. And once he gets you there, Bryce Mitchell is going to smother the life out of you with excellent top control while he works for submissions. He's going to chain his takedowns. This is how I think it goes. I think he gets him down. Eventually, Edson Barboza gives up his back, and Mitchell sinks in a rear naked choke. Yeah. Somewhere in round 2 or 3 is probably – listen, if Makwan Amir Khani got 3 of 6 takedowns against Edson Barboza 2 years ago, Mitchell is going to get as many takedowns as he wants all day, in my opinion, unless he gets caught on entry. I think that's really the only way he loses. So, my problem is I agree with Title, and I don't want to lay 160 here because of how dangerous Edson Barboza is. So I might shoot my shot and take him by submission at plus 215. As just like a one-off. Could he win by decision and I get screwed? Yes. But I really don't want to lay 160 because I still respect Edson Barboza a lot more than Oliveira, if that makes sense.
What about the decision sub double chance? Because I don't think Mitchell's going to finish him.
It's the same price. It's the same price as the money line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense then.
Yeah. Right.
All right. That's Barboza Mitchell. We all kind of expect the same thing here, but Barboza, has to be respected. He's a fantastic fighter. With
his last 2 fights, Giga, Shane Burgos, like those are 2 of the best. Like, the guy's a complete stud still. It's just, if we think Bryce Mitchell's the grappler and the IQ of what he is, it's going to be tough.
Yep. No doubt about it. We'll move on to the next fight, Renato Moicano, I believe on somewhat short notice against Rafael Dos Anjos. Dos Anjos sitting here minus 170-ish. So another fight that's expected to be fairly close between these two. Kev, we'll start with you on this one. I'll just throw it right to you. Dos Anjos, Moicano, what do you see here?
Yeah, well, initially, I have been the biggest fan of Fiziev, and he was one of my favorite prospects because they were supposed to book it. And I was kind of excited to take the shot on RDA at plus 220 because as high as I was on him, I thought, man, if he could just get him down to the ground, his wrestling is so good. And I kind of feel that same thing applies here. We know we just saw Moicano fight 3 weeks ago. He looked good. I'll call a spade a spade. I thought Alexander Hernandez was the right side on the show, and I got that one wrong. After the fight, he goes home. I assume he ballooned up because he probably did nothing for about 3 weeks. So, and that's probably why this is a catch weight. But we know that RDA has been prepping for a hard 5-round war for a while now, right? And he's been focused because he's coming in off the 15-month layoff. And the last thing he wants to do is gas out in that cage. So I think that RDA style suits him well in this fight because Moicano will not keep up with the volume that RDA has thrown historically. And I don't think that he's going to stop him from eventually taking Moicano down to the ground. So now I know that Moicano does have an 80% takedown defense, okay, in his fights during the UFC. And only one fighter has successfully taken him down. I think it was Stehugov. But I think that's padded with predominantly strikers that he's really faced in his UFC career.
Well, let me ask you a couple questions, Keg, because Dos Anjos in his last fight, like you said, big layoff for him against Paul Felder. Was that Felder's last fight? It might have been.
I think so.
But I remember that fight, and it was kind of surprising to see. I think Felder might have taken that on short notice too, actually. But Dos Anjos kind of came out with a very, very wrestling-heavy game plan that you don't typically always see from him. 6 takedowns and 14 minutes of control time. That was a 5-round fight, so it wasn't the whole fight, but impressive. Dos Anjos scheduled, like you said, to fight a 5-round fight, to fight Fiziev. You would presume that he would have had a similar game plan against Fiziev, right? Who's primarily a striker. So Dos Anjos probably building on that wrestling improvements that he made in his last fight. He's probably going to do the same thing here, right? Like just take it, wrestle Moicano.
Yep. 100%.
If you connect the dots, it seems like Dos Anjos could spend a lot of time in top control in this fight to me. So that's how I think this one's going to go. Title, you have thoughts on Dos Anjos here and Moicano?
No, I think everything you guys said, pretty much makes sense. And the big concern is, or like the big difference, like Keg said, RDA has been prepping for a 5-round fight. He's been in multiple 5-round fights. Moicano hasn't. He just fought a couple weeks ago, and he looked tired at the end of the first round against Alexander Hernandez. Like he looked pretty gassed, and that's a huge concern against RDA in the 25-minute fight a couple weeks later, taking this fight on short notice. So there's just so much going against him. I like Moicano. Like I think he's a good fighter. Those leg kicks are good. His striking is good. His grappling, he's got very good grappling. So does he find a submission against RDA? Well, RDA has never been submitted in 43 pro fights. So Moicano is grappling is nasty, but man, it'd be tough to expect him to be the first one to ever submit RDA. The cardio advantage, I got to give it to RDA for sure, especially because he's been training for it. I think he pushes the pace on him. I think he does mix in the takedowns, the top control, mixes up well to the body on the feet. There's just a lot going against Moicano in this fight. And as far as RDA, there isn't a lot going against him as he's been prepping for so long for this. So it's RDA for me. But when we're talking DFS wise, RDA 7,300. That's because the pricing came out when he was supposed to fight Fiziev, and he was an underdog. They don't change the pricing after a fight's changed and the pricing's already released. Moicano 7,200 because he's a dog right now. RDA is going to be way more popular than Moicano. Moicano is a game theory play as a plus 150 dog. That's going to be a lot lower owned than RDA, which totally makes sense. If you want to play Kobe, if you're playing a lot of the chalk, if you're not leaving too much salary, stuff like that, Moicano definitely makes sense to play at half the ownership. But my pick's RDA. So game theory wise, Moicano definitely makes sense. Definitely going to have some in 150 and stuff like that. But I do think the pace RDA does push is too much for Moicano, especially because, man, he looked tired at the end of that first round against Alexander Hernandez a couple weeks ago. And that is not a good sign in a fight like this.
This fight, obviously the most kind of uniquely priced fight on the card for a couple of obviously the late switch where you get Dos Anjos as a favorite at 7,300, 5-round fight. I would assume he'll be the most popular fighter on this card.
Him and Kobe.
Well, I mean, but you'd also have obviously Umer, who is minus 1,000, so he's going to get some too. So Yeah, none of these guys will be, 100% just because there's so many good options on this card. So interesting from a DFS title. You're going to have one of these two, and I assume almost every lineup.
In 20 entry max and below, 100%. In 150, I'm still debating. I still might make that rule, but if you don't, then you just get automatically different. And like if Greg Hardy knocks him out in less than a minute, stuff like that. So there's paths, but man, it's so safe. And like more than likely this fight's on the optimal for obvious reasons with the pricing, with 25 minutes, with it expected to end. So yeah, if you're playing 100 lineups or less, I think you make a rule and you play one of these guys.
Yeah, it'll be Dos Anjos for me. I think he could actually score really well too, even if it goes to a decision.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of control time. He's very active when he's doing that, lands a lot of strikes, so he could rack up a very, very big score. And at 7,300, if he does, you're going to almost certainly have to have him. So I'll have a lot of Dos Anjos myself. Let's get to the main event here. Actually, did I grab you, Keg, there on Dos Anjos? Yeah, I did, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't really give out a bet. The only problem is, I was really excited to take him at plus 220 against Fiziev.
Yeah.
A lot less excited to take him at minus 170 here straight. So, I mean, I think he's a parlay piece. I also think the alternative round overs, over 1.5 rounds, over 2.5 rounds in this fight, can be used as a parlay piece also, because I think we're going to see a lot of top control time from RDA.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it.
Cool. All right, let's get to the main event. Some bad blood between Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal, who used to be friends, right? And then had a falling out, and it's unclear to me how much of the bad blood is manufactured a little bit. These are two guys who like to drum up the hype, no question about it. They're good at it. Covington, Masvidal, should be a fun one. People are looking forward to this one. People love Jorge Masvidal. I'm a fan as well. Hasn't looked that great in the cage in these last 2 or 3 years. Probably he gets fights kind of above his fighting level because he's so popular. It's a prize fighting game. That's what it is. Covington, has been pretty awesome outside of the 2 5-round losses to Kamaru Usman, who's just kind of untouchable at this point. A lot of impressive wins for Covington. Very good wrestler. I think the general consensus is that's what he'll try to do to Masvidal. People have had success for the most part doing that to Jorge Masvidal, and you do see that reflected in the line title. Covington sitting around minus 330 or so. So a big line on Covington. Obviously a 5-round fight here. Should be a good one. Give us your thoughts on how it's going to go down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a hot take that's different from a lot of people. It's Colby. The thing with Colby is he is just so relentless with the takedowns, and he has cardio for days. He can fight some of the best cardio you'll ever see in the UFC. If Masvidal stuffs his first 12 takedowns, he's going to probably get that 13th takedown, or he's at least not going to give up on it. And I just don't think Masvidal can stuff takedowns for 25 straight minutes. Colby on the feet, he's not lost on the feet by any means. He throws decent volume. He's tough as hell. I mean, look what Usman, like he put a beating on Colby. He dropped him multiple times. He tested that chin, but Colby never gave up. He came back. He always fought. I don't know where Masvidal wins. I'm not the biggest Masvidal guy. I wanted it to be Leon Edwards against Masvidal. I was going to be over Leon Edwards on that fight for sure. Colby by decision would be my bet. I think Masvidal is tough enough to survive when his back's against the mat. I don't think Colby's submitting him. The ground and pound, it's going to hurt, but I don't think Masvidal is going to get finished from the ground and pound. So Colby by decision is my favorite bet. But for DFS though, even if it's Colby by decision, that could be 9 takedowns, 18 minutes of control time, significant strikes, and just be a monster score still. You don't need a finish in a 5-round fight. Sometimes you'd rather a decision with 25 minutes rather than a 3rd-round finish, as we know. So I think it's Colby. I just think the takedowns are going to be too much for him. I'm not the biggest Masvidal guy though, so I get it, but I wouldn't bet minus 335. I don't know. Parlay piece, sure. Kek can talk about that though, because I know he does do that, but I just think the takedowns are going to be too much for him.
Yeah. I'm with you. That's how I think it's going to go. If Masvidal wins this, doesn't it almost have to be via knockout? Like, can he even?
I don't think there's another way.
Yeah,
I think it has
Not
to be
only by
knockout.
knockout, but like by knockout in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah. There's just no way he's winning a decision. I don't think against Covington. I just can't even.
Kobe will triple him up in volume alone. There's no chance. I think if we strip the names, okay, and we took this one skill set against this one skill set, you would make Colby Covington probably a $6 favorite. Because I just don't see how George has anything more than catching him a puncher's chance. That's it. I don't know what else to say about this fight. And I think you guys are both dead on decision. Me personally, I paid a little bit extra juice to take the play on FanDuel. Colby by round 4, round 5, or decision. Because it wouldn't shock me a late stoppage if Masvidal is like, you know what, I'm done. And he just gives up his back and Colby sinks in a choke. Or if they maybe we get a referee who, Masvidal isn't defending himself in the 5th round. They call it. So, but I think it'll probably be a decision. I think you guys are both right. But yeah, I went with round 4, 5, or decision. I think you can also use them as a parlay piece if you wanted to get the price down on another fighter. But for me, I mean, if George doesn't knock him out, he is going to have a long day.
Yeah.
I'll say, if you're out there betting Covington by decision, do it on FanDuel. He's minus 105 on FanDuel. DraftKings, he's minus 125. We always talk about price shopping.
What number did you get on 4 or 5 decision for Covington, Keg?
160, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I like that bet a lot. Is that we'll see on FanDuel? He said we'll see. I don't know if that's still out there, but if it is, I do like that call. So, we all expect kind of the same thing. Covington, just relentless pressure. Masvidal's kind of shown a susceptibility to that style of fighter. I do think Masvidal legitimately, like, really, really wants to win this fight. He looks in incredible shape. I don't mind taking a flyer on Masvidal 2nd round KO, something crazy, right? I'm sure you can get like plus 1,000 on that. Just if you want to take a stab, that's how I would do it on Masvidal.
You'll get more than that. It's only plus 16. It's plus 1,600 without even the KO or anything.
Yeah. So yeah, you want to take that 16 or 20 to 1 shot or something like that. I don't mind it. Obviously just a sprinkle there. And then you can even bet the other side and do the Keg thing, 4th, 5th round Covington. Because those seem like kind of the 2 most likely outcomes to this fight. So you can cover your bases a little bit if you want to go that direction. From a DFS perspective, I think you got to take one of these 2 guys. Title, like, to me, Covington. You don't have to. Covington, though, if he wins, it's either going to be he wins a knockout, great, or finishes. But even a decision win for Covington is going to score super well. And if Masvidal does pull off the upset, like we think, it's going to be an early KO, and he's 6,800. I think he's the cheapest fighter on DraftKings, so he would be in the optimal as well. So I think whoever wins this fight, again, we think it's most likely Covington, is going to get on the winning lineup. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, I do, but like I'd be more inclined to have some more fight phase on this one than the RDA Moicano fight due to the pricing and the other people around him, like Kevin Holland, Umer. There's other people in the upper tier where maybe Kobe finds a 3rd round finish or an early 4th round finish. He gets 112 and somehow other people score more. I mean, he's going to be one of the most, you have to get different on this card is the thing. Sure. You can't just play all the chalkiest fighters. If you do, leave salary and you have to play some underdogs. So yeah, I might have some fight fades at 150. That's because I might just have no Masvidal at all, just because I don't think he wins. And then I'm not just going to completely hit the lock button on Kobe. I don't know. I haven't made my 150 yet. In 20 entry and below, I'm going to hit the lock button on Kobe for sure.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good card for us. We've been on the same page, the 3 of us, for almost all these fights, it seems like. I don't know about you guys, but my confidence level overall in this card is fairly high. I think we've got a good read on these cards. So I'm excited for these fights. Obviously, we'll see how it all goes down. We'll be back, I think, next week, hopefully. Love these UFC cards. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you watched live, even better. Enjoyed you in the chat. And if you watch on demand, that's all good as well. we will get out of here. He's Keg, Title. I'm DC, of course, and we'll check you next time.
Good luck, everybody.